Hello and welcome to this webinar in the NextGEOSS webinar series. Today you can see that I have a wonderful panel of experts, developers and community portal experts. My name is Bente Lilja. I'm going to be your host in this webinar, and we will talk about the NextGEOSS Geospatial User Feedback Service and how that facilitates interactions between users of data and providers of data. So it's super exciting. I'm looking forward to learn from these experts. But before we start, and before I introduce more thoroughly the experts, we are going to do the usual weather report. This is for you to learn about the weather in Europe, because now we will have a rather full report. And we are also interested in hearing from you, to hear where you're from. And by all means, let us know what the weather is like where you are in the chat box. And the chat box is where you will be able to ask questions and comments later on. But first, before we start, let's hear about the weather in Europe. Let's start with you, Jose. Can you let us know where you are and what the weather is like?
Hi everyone, my name is Jose. I'm a software engineer for the ground segment business unit at DEIMOS Engenharia. I'm currently working from home. I'm in Setúbal, in Portugal, and the weather here, it's a bit cloudy and a bit sunny, so it's an all right weather, pretty much.
An all right weather.
Yeah.
Lovely. Anestis, we go further, I don't know, south, but at least east.
East, yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Trypitsidis. I'm from National Observatory of Athens. And just to let you know that the weather here is mostly sunny, with having right now 31 degrees.
Oh,
31 degrees.
Sounds very great. Lovely. Warm and nice. Alaitz, let us hear it from you.
Hello, I'm Alaitz Zabala. I'm from Autónoma University of Barcelona, and I'm close to Barcelona in Bellaterra. And here it's sunny and a bit windy today.
A bit windy. Then Stephan.
Yeah, hello. My name is Stephan Hennekens. I'm from the Netherlands, and the weather here, well, it looks sunny when I look outside the window, but if you go outside, it's a bit chilly. It's windy and chilly.
Windy and chilly and sunny, yeah.
And sunny.
And Joan, last but not least.
Well, I'm relatively close to Alaitz Zabala, a little bit to the north, in the very middle of Catalonia. Here is even more windy, so it is sunny, so it should have a good temperature, but with the wind, everything got disrupted, and I prefer to be inside.
You prefer to be inside. Okay. Well, I'm in Norway. I'm situated right now just northwest of Oslo, the capital of Norway. And we have slightly overcast, sunny right now, but we are expecting rain this afternoon. That's how it is. It's a lovely autumn day.
It's Norway.
It's Norway. Yes, it's Norway. Okay, you guys, we are ready to embark on the content here. We will start with an introduction to the concept of the user feedback mechanism, the geospatial user feedback mechanism. Then we will have a demo on how you can use it. And we have a lovely panel of community portal experts who will tell us how the experience was and how they have implemented it. So it's super exciting to hear about this powerful tool. And before I give the floor to each of the speakers, we will introduce the speakers. Each of them, between each of the presentations, by the way, we are able to ask, you are able to ask, and we are able to answer your questions. And we will have a Q&A at the end if this is of interest. So we do an introduction, a very quick introduction of the speakers, so that you know a little bit more about them, and then we will start the presentations. I expect this will take about an hour. This webinar will take about an hour. The presentations will be made available to you on the nextgeoss.eu website. You will be getting the replay in your inbox if you have registered for this webinar. Okay, Let's start with you again, José. Can you give us a short introduction of who you are and what you do?
So again, my name is José. I'm a software engineer for the ground segment business unit at DEIMOS here in Portugal. And I have some experience with projects related to geospatial catalog systems.
Yes, so you will show us the demo. And Anestis?
Yeah, my name is Anestis Trypitsidis. I'm research associate and project manager here at National Observatory of Athens, and I'm involved in NextGEOSS project as the day-to-day contact person related to the pilot that we are going to spend some few words today, and also with the provision of Sentinel data to the NextGEOSS catalog.
Excellent. And Alaitz?
Hey, I'm Alaitz Zabala, as I said. I'm working at the Autónoma University of Barcelona, and I'm a researcher here. So on one side, I'm working in several research projects, especially in NextGEOSS. I'm developing the user feedback mechanism, so I'm, let's say, a metadata girl, more or less. And I also give some general lectures on GIS or remote sensing topics.
And that's a new concept now, metadata girl. Yes, I like that. Okay, Stephan.
Okay, my name is Stephan Hennekens. I work here at the Wageningen Environmental Research, which is part of the Wageningen University. I'm a vegetation scientist from origin. Nowadays, more or less a software engineer, and I'm also responsible for development of the web tool that I will present later. So
yes,
I have a little experience with remote sense data, almost none. So.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're one of the users, and Anestis, I forgot to say, you will also share your user experience.
Yeah.
I believe you, Alaitz, you told us about what you have been doing here as a developer expert, and Joan, again, last but not least, of course, let us learn about you.
Yeah, I'm Joan Maso. I work in CREAF, that's a research center of ecology and applied forestry. But we also do maps. We do maps on the internet. We do remote sensing. And, we had this GeoVico project, and the GeoVico project changed a little bit our perception on data quality, and also included this idea of user feedback. And we are still working on that. We are still implementing. We are still making the idea grow.
Yes, and you are here also to share an experience of using this user feedback service.
I will talk afterwards about the ECOPotential project where we were and why we included user feedback in it.
Excellent. So there you have our wonderful panel of experts, and now we are ready to start the show. And we will start with you, Alaitz. Let us hear about user feedback mechanism concept. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sharing now my screen.
Yes, we will turn off our cameras while you are speaking, of course, and then come back to you in the change to a new speaker.
Okay. So as I said, I'm going to explain a little bit more about geospatial user feedback and the NiMMbus system we have developed, but especially I will highlight how this can support providers and users interaction. So let's start talking about what general user feedback is. And this is an example of Amazon, or you can find this kind of user feedback mechanisms, let's say, in many places. The idea is that users that have been using certain resources can comment on that, giving short descriptions, more long descriptions, giving even ratings, so with a 5-star product or a 1-star product. And all this information comes out, this idea, or altogether is this idea of general user feedback. If we go now to our specific user feedback, the one related to geospatial data, we can talk about the OGC Geospatial User Feedback Standard that was approved 3 years from now already. And this geospatial user feedback defines certain items to be documented for each resource we are giving user feedback. And then those specific files, of course, are capturing these specific needs for geospatial data. So for example, you can, in this geospatial user feedback, include significant events description. So here in this image, I can see a volcanic eruption, or I can see a earthquake effects, or I can see as landslide or other similar events. Also, it can be used to define how I used, which is the usage as a user I have done with a certain resource. And if I have encountered some problems, I can describe that as well. I can relate publications, scientific, for example, publications, explaining how I used this data set or how I created this data set. And even the users can include additional lineage information or additional quality information in case they, for example, have done new quality tests over a public data set, for example. So what user feedback brings to data providers? On one side, of course, they can use this even general comments element to gather or to know the user's needs and even reply to them. The comments are categorized, and then the comments can be comments or questions or answers or response justifications and so on. So all this information, it's an easy way for users to communicate and for providers to listen this information, or as I said, to reply as well. Also, they want to know, or they can know, which is the interest that the resources have, or in the users, because they can see, okay, people likes this resource a lot, and it's a 5-star resource, or it's not that good, and people it's just rating this resource always not really good, 1 or 2 stars. So we can think about it and maybe modify this resource. On the other side, if we go to the usage element in the user feedback, these ideas that the users can explain in detail what they have done with the data set. So, for example, this Greenland cover data set was used to derive train and test area for remote sensing classification, or some other examples. They can say when they do that, they did that, and also if they determine some limitations and how they respond to that limitations. So again, the provider can know some limitations from here and then take the actions and in improving the resource or the data set. Then thinking of the other side of the equation or of the situation, what about the data users? Of course, besides raising their voices and explaining comments, which users they have done, etc., they can in more detail explain which issues they discovered, and then which known problem they discover, when they found out this problem, and how they work around or they solve this problem. Or even they can link this resource to certain publications they have done. For example, one paper in the Journal of Land Use Science where they explain how they used or the limitations of Greenland cover in a certain work area, for example, urban land use dynamics. The idea of user feedback from us, as Joan said, back from 9 years ago in GeoBiqua, it's making this information useful and exploiting this information in order to go or to build towards the knowledge hub. So here I'm extracting a piece of the proposed design and proof of concept of the Geo Knowledge Hub that the Geo group on Earth observations created late in 2019, so not even 1 year ago. And they identify here several resource types that can help building the knowledge. And they talk about publications, software code, models and tools, different kinds of data, remote sensing, in situ and ancillary data, then output and products, videos, and other relevant documents. And if we think of this information on how NiMMbus or how the user feedback mechanism can define that or include that, the truth is that we are pretty fine, because most of them, we already have them. I show you how users can create or can link publications, of course, how they link to remote sensing or any other kind of data, and if this data is in certain catalog, they can link to this data and give resources or targets to them. As well, if they publish their data in an open science cloud or open data cloud, then they can link this data to the original data as well with the user feedback targets or system, and even, of course, any other material published or videos published. So the tool, or the part that was a little bit more not that originally covered in the user feedback official one, is this software code models and tools. So this idea of reproducible usage, and this is what we have working on the late months. And the idea here is that we have done a small modification on the Open Geospatial in the OGC standard that we are that we will submit for being approved as a new extension or as a new version of it. And the idea is that we have included these elements that we were missing. So we include one way of describing the text or the code that will allows you to reproduce a certain usage. For example, here is a simple example of how to calculate a burn ratio index, but this could be something really complex. And then if it's too long, then maybe you will not put here the text or the code itself, but you will link to, for example, a GitHub repository where the code is stored. And also you need to explain not only what you need to do, but where you need to do it. So for example, here you will describe which is the platform, the version of the platform, and the schema. So which part of the platform you can apply this code. So for example, you can also here could even link to a WPS service where you could throw that what you could send this request explained here in the text or in a URL, for example. And that's it from my side. I don't want to spend that much time, and I prefer the others to explain you or with the concrete examples of this user feedback mechanism. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alaitz. I do have some questions for you, but I think I will save them for the end, so that we have a continuation. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I think we go directly to you, Jose, who will demonstrate us on how to use this now.
Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you how we have integrated this wonderful widget in our catalog. And I want to emphasize how easy and how flexible this widget is, and you'll see how. I'm going to present you with 3 different use cases. One where we can give feedback to a data set, then a collection, and also to a pilot. So without further ado, let me start. So this is a new NextGEOSS catalog, as you can see here. Now we're going to search for a data set. So if we just search and fetch data sets, you'll see that there are plenty of results. And we're just going to open the first one, for instance. You'll see that we open the dataset page. And if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see that there's this section of Geospatial User Feedback where the widget is here. So now if we want to add a user feedback, we just log in with our credentials. It's that easy. Then once we're logged in, we just add whatever comment we'd like. So let's leave a nice message for this example. Then once we submit it, we'll refresh. We just close and open this page again. Then we'll see that the comment is here, the one we just posted. So this is for the dataset use case. Now, if we go to the data collections, over here on top, you'll see that each collection that is displayed here is also an add feedback button, which allows us to add feedback and check what other feedbacks have been previously added to the specific collection. So if we open different collections feedbacks, we'll see that there's comments from other users, and some collections don't have feedback yet. They're waiting for new feedback. And finally, we have this use case of the pilots. So if we open the thematic areas and check biodiversity, and then the pilot, we'll see that if we also scroll all the way down, we'll see there's this new section with the feedback from other people as well that have used the widget. So let's just leave a nice comment as well here about this pilot. Once again, we log in. And we'll just leave a nice comment. I like this pilot page, for example, and we'll rate it 5 stars, why not? And then we finally submit. And if we refresh the page again, we will see that our just posted comment will be here that we just posted, together with the other previous comments from other users. So basically, I just want to emphasize how easy and how reusable this widget can be. You just can implement it anywhere you'd like. It's that flexible and customizable, and that's pretty much it on my side.
Thank you very much. It seems to be very easy to use indeed, even for me who is not a developer. So that looks promising. But that is my guess. Let's hear it from those who actually have used it now. So Anestis, we are ready to hear about your experience.
Yep. Thank you, Bente. Let me share my screen. So are you able to see my screen? I guess yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I have already introduced myself. So I just to let you know that the content of the presentation will be to provide some few words about the institute that I represent before dive into of my experience on integrating the user feedback widget to our pilots community portal. So beyond Center of Excellence and Operational Center providing both research and applied Earth observation-based services targeting specific user needs. Beyond does not represent a legal organization. It is hosted under and operated at the premises of National Observatory of Athens. The center was established by competitive funds from European Commission and most specifically from the 7th framework program of the European Commission, and it was supported by a fund of the amount of 2.4 million euros. So Beyond's main objective is to establish and maintain a European Excellence Center for cutting-edge remote sensing science, and for developing actually operational applications based on mature research outputs. What you can see here is some specific thematic areas that we are focusing on, and the different services and data and thematic areas that we are representing. And now I will give you some more insights about our pilot. So the disaster risk reduction pilot of NextGEOSS is a research and innovation pilot, which is focusing on two distinct parts. The first one concerns the identification of landslides through a demanding processing chain using Sentinel-1 data. And the second actually enhances a susceptibility landslide model that we have created years ago with the support and knowledge of experts in the domain, specifically geologists. We are also the end users of this pilot. Therefore, the main Earth observation-based developments was the processing of time series of Sentinel-1, which is radar data, in order to detect any surface deformation during the years. So just to highlight that their pilot is an on-demand processing chain triggered by user and agreed on to be executed over specific areas of interest. And the main outcome of this process, that it is made available to our community portal that you will be seeing in a while, are the ground velocities or deformations as they are depicted in the image on the right-hand side here. We are seeing the ground deformation over 3 years for the island of Santorini. Next. So in this slide, you can see the community portal of our pilot, which is very close to be publicly released. As you can see, we have already integrated the user feedback widget, which can be accessed by the two interfaces buttons that you can see on red boxes here. And what you are seeing now is the already posted feedback that we have made for testing reasons in order to see how this functions. And by clicking to the add user feedback function, users will be allowed to post a new feedback, as already been seen by my colleague from DEIMOS. So after a user is logged in, to the prompt panes, they can post the feedback here, as we have seen from previously. So what we will actually provide to you is our experience on integrating the user feedback, because we do not have the chance to share with our end users. So first, just to let you know that the instructions in the GitHub guide were very clear. But of course, there is always some room for improvement in explaining what the widget does. But anyone who lands on that guide is probably already aware of, as we were. And also, as we run into as we have implemented the widget, we have run into some empty feedback widgets, which was for sure the case because we do not have pre-filled feedbacks there. So some screenshot will be a nice alternative as a suggestion. Secondly, the integration of the widgets, as I said, was very quick and for the most part plug and play. Only some few modifications into the main JavaScript file was needed, and also to edit some paths for the dependencies of the JavaScripts. So it's a bit technical, but this is the feedback that we can give as a user, as a developing actually integrating the widget to our community portal. And third, there was a minor issue on loading every time feedbacks entries. Therefore, we had to refresh the page in order to make the widget work. This was actually based on the testing that we did. It was an error happening with 10% of probability. So while we were working on it, we have figured that out. And based on this experience, we could propose some suggestions for the user feedback widget, which are mainly a few more options on the function that initializes the widgets. That, as you can see here, the 2 points is to add a path option to specify the directory of all the secondary JavaScript files, and add events such as once receive or complete a user feedback to let us know that a feedback was received or completed by the users. So to let us, the developers or the management of the website, that a feedback was received by a user. So that's it from my side. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that this information would be really appreciated by you in order to give you a short feedback about our experience on installing this pretty much easy widget to our community portal. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anestis. I bet that was really useful for the developers. Yes, they are nodding their heads here. Exactly, and at this stage where it's well, a few communities have already installed this widget, but learning from the other experiences, I think this has a high value in itself, Anestis, for the others who are going to, not only for the developers, but also for future communities that want to embed this widget.
Yep.
So thank you very much, and we jump directly to the next one and learn about biodiversity in this case. Stephan, are you ready to share your experience? You are muted, so...
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Bente, for giving me the floor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we will turn off our cameras and mute ourselves, except you, Stephan, and then we will see what the experience you have.
Okay, thank you. I will now give a very quick overview of a web application that we have built as a pilot in the NextGEOSS project. This is a tool that makes it possible to run UNIS habitat suitability models using Maxent. It's a software package in the cloud on the European level. The abbreviation UNIS stands for European Nature Information System, and it uses a classification that basically describes every single habitat in Europe. But this web application itself concentrates on the more or less natural vegetated habitats. And as input for the modeling, we have on the one hand observation data, which concerns in situ vegetation plots that have been classified to one of the many UNIS habitat types on the one hand. So we can see that those habitat types here, there's a tree view. So for example, you can go to woodlands and then go to, for example, broadleafed green, evergreen woodland. And then, for example, I'll choose this one. Yes, go to finally to Fagus woodland on non-acid soil. So Fagus woodland means beech forest. On the other hand, we have a number of model predictors. Think about climate layers or soil layers, topography layers, and of course we also have remote sense enabled EBVs from which you can select. And then you can, if you have made your selection, so you select a UNIS habitat type, you select a number of model predictors, you can run the model, which I will not do now because that will take a couple of minutes. But I simply open a recent calculation. So I'm doing that now, which is the Fagus woodland and non-acid soils. As you can see on the left, you can see what is the contribution of each of the predictors to the modeling. So for example, precipitation of warmest quarter is 22%, etc. But we have more output. We also have a prediction map, which is very interesting. So I can open the map and select the fraction map. There it appears. We can zoom in. And for example, if you zoom into, let's say, Switzerland, into the Alps, you can see that this Fagus woodland doesn't go up in the very high parts of the mountains. So it stops in the valleys. So in this way, we also have graphs to be shown. I will not explain that in detail now, but it's all output from the Maxent model, which can also be downloaded. So you can click on the result and the whole package will be downloaded to your computer. And the calculations, they will be preserved for 1 or 2 days on the Wageningen server, but okay. So you can always, within 1 or 2 days, you can always easily review the models you have run. And yeah, but regarding the feedback system, we have integrated. We are planning to add more options. So here, the last button is the feedback button. So if you click that one, you can see the feedback that has been given so far. And we can see, for example, here, feedback from José, which has been submitted just a couple of minutes ago, which is already present in my feedback window. So at the moment, we only can store the feedback, let's say, in a more general sense. But what we are aiming at is to give more specific feedback on certain items of the application. So, for example, we would like to have specific feedback on certain habitat types, or we would like to have specific feedback on certain predictors, and more specifically on the RS-enabled EBVs. What does it mean for the user? Is it useful, or is it does it make sense, or doesn't it make sense? That kind of feedback is really good to have. So we have to build in more specific options of this feedback system, which is already available, but simply needs to be done. What we also want to add, which is already touched by Alaitz, is that, for example, we would also be able to store certain settings so that other people can run exactly the same model with the same settings, and then just reproduce what others have done. So that's something that is foreseen for hopefully for the next couple of months. So I think this is all I would like to tell you about this web application and integration with the feedback system. Yeah, thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Stephan. This was really very interesting to see and inspiring to see, in fact.
Yeah.
I made the following observations, pun intended. José used he gave you feedback on the NextGEOSS data hub on the catalog. So he went to NextGEOSS.
Yeah.
And then you can immediately see it on your community portal.
Well, it takes a few minutes, but that's fair enough.
In astronomical perspective, that's immediate.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
So so rather quickly, the point is that there's a direct link there. So
absolutely,
you can collect user feedback to your community, both from your portal or from NextGEOSS, and then as we will learn, infinite number of other portals if that is the case, right? You can confirm this?
Yeah.
So this is great. Another observation, just to share that with you, you said that in the planning, not yet there, but in the planning, you will be able to reproduce, and that was the modeling that you do via using the feedback mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. So we simply have to store the preferences that the user made into the feedback system, and then I mean another user could grab those preferences and then run the model without doing let's say the selections themselves. That's
what I heard, and I know this from the Geo Knowledge Hub discussions that we have had, that this reproducibility is a key functionality, we would say, a key feature. And Alaitz also mentioned this in her presentation. So actually, we see that this is about to be implemented on your portal.
Yes.
Yeah, terrific. Okay. We are ready for a third example and some more, Joan.
I believe we are ready, I hope.
Yes.
So it is about delivering knowledge with reproducible usage, actually.
Can you also turn off your camera before you...
The camera, yep, absolutely.
Yes. Go.
So, we see two complementary approaches to knowledge distribution. We have heard about one approach that consists in collecting the knowledge generated from the data, like the code and the models and maybe the papers and the results, and then create a closed package and secure it and preserve it to the benefit of everybody and allowing them to use it. But we believe on another approach, and this is to allow people to constantly contribute their usage of the data, their visualizations, their statistics, their indices, their citations to publications and so on, and link them together to the data and allow everybody to get them as they evolve. So in previous presentations, we know about the concept of the feedback, how to create feedback, and how to connect the feedback with data catalogs. I would like to present you something more that we did on ECOPotential. ECOPotential is a large, or was actually a large project that ended last year that focused on activities set by international recognized protected areas. It blends Earth observation, remote sensing, in situ measurements, data, analytics, modeling, and it deals with future ecosystem conditions and services. ECOPotential considers cross-scale geosphere biospace interactions at regional, but also and at the long term, but also at local scales, because it focuses on protected areas. And those protected areas were pilots for ECOPotential, and those areas were mountain, arid and semi-arid, and coastal and marine ecosystems. Actually, there were 22. And here you have a map of the areas where you can see that covered most of Europe and beyond. What we in particular needed to do is to collect the existing information and data about these protected areas, and that was a kind of a gigantic effort, because there were more than 300 requests coming from the protected areas. We were dealing with 42 different products, remote sensing mainly, and we had to fulfill the needs of those more than 22 protected areas. So we end up creating a map browser that include all the protected areas in a single place. And we wanted to go beyond the classical visualization, but allowing users to actually change visualizations and to create new combinations of bands from, for example, Sentinel-2, and to create new indices, and to actually, for instance, create histograms. This is an histogram of the elevations of this area, or actually knowing what they were seeing as the statistical summaries or pies. And the secret for doing that was an uncommon way of using WMS. WMS is actually an OGC standard that distributes data as pictorial representation created by the server side. So actually, the user sees the image that is an PNG, and he says nice. But in ECOPotential, we move the data to the client. So actually, the data is traveling into the JavaScript client, and then the user can say, let's work with it. And he can produce all these analytical results afterwards. But that was what we did. And at the very end of the project, and thinking about the geospatial user feedback once and again, we say, what about if we were able to share that knowledge that we are creating, but those pies and those new visualizations that we can do in the browser with others, and create a community of people that are actually working with the data. And the solution to that was kind of extending the geospatial user feedback beyond textual information, allowing machine-readable code to also being shared in the same way. And this way permit the users to reproduce what others has done in their own map browsers. So before questions, I will show you, I hope I will show you, the actual browser. And to do that, I need to go to maps.ecopotential.eu. This is the actual browser. I promise you that all the protected areas will be represented, and they are. And I'm going to the Llana National Park. Now that we cannot travel a lot, let's travel virtually. And here we see several data sets that we integrated, like a digital elevation model, background information, hydro period, inundation, and land use, land cover, for instance. But what I would like to show to you is this small triangle here that is a remote sensing data set. And I'm not very fortunate because I just selected a date that is not very convenient, because there was just this small triangle of data, but here we are seeing more. Okay, and I already have in this map browser several styles, but it seems that that there are other possibilities to see this information. I could show, for instance, a true color image, but I could also show some styles that others has done before. And when I open this, it is actually part of the feedback. So those are feedbacks that contain styles, And the interesting bit here is that you are seeing the code that was generated by other people. And this is actually a JSON fragment that belongs to this map browser, to this platform. So even if it was created by another person, I should be able to adopt it directly. And this is what I will achieve just by clicking here. I don't know, maybe Alaitz, now that you are here with me, maybe you could actually evaluate this new index that I created. It's a salinity index that we found in the literature. So I propose that you simply post a feedback about it. My particular idea of this, as it was shared, is that it's not very contrast, isn't it? There is a lag in contrast here. So I can edit the style, and actually some levels are presented to me, but I will just stretch the contrast a lot. So I'm just changing the maximum and minimum values here just to trick the visualization into something a little bit more contrasted. And now I already see the differences between, you know, these parts and these other parts here and there, and the coastal areas in the digital park. Okay, that's fine. I believe that's better than the actual style that was proposed to me. So I will just share this style. So I go here, I use my NextGEOSS password, but it's really, really important, so I will never, ever tell it to you. Hopefully I remember it correctly myself. Yes, I do. So I want to be allowed to use this in this environment. And here it's my new code. I could just say this is my new salinity. With more contracts. And it's there. I don't need to do much because the code is here. It is a JSON. It is for the same platform. And eventually, if I had a diagram or something like that, I could link it to here. So I believe I'm done. So I will do create. And this new possibility, it's now automatically available from anybody else. So if we go to the feedbacks that are here, we are going to see all the things that we have together. This was the other one, the one that was already here, and this is something in between that says, well, this is my new index. I would like to publicize that a little bit more. Remember that you can create indexes with this layer, and I recommend particularly this salinity index. And this is the new one. This is that I just, no, this is not. This is the previous one. The new one, it's on top. Sorry about that. This is on UTC, so it's exactly 2 minutes ago. It's available here. If I was another user, I will have here an adopt button, and I will adopt this one that is better than this other one. So this is how it works. This is how the system is starting to allow you to share reproducible things with others. So now everybody knows my salinity index and can add it to this list, even if the ECOPotential project has ended. So this list is not going to change for everybody, but I'm able to contribute new things to the project and continue interacting with the community with the geospatial user feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. This is really great, and a nice follow-up after Stephan, who is planning to do something similar or equivalent on his portal. So what you are saying, Joan, is that it's not only a user feedback that just inform, you can actually use directly and start and develop further directly based on what others have done, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just about being able to contribute to the creation of a knowledge based on the data. So everything that you do that you feel is interesting for others to know, you can comment on it, or you can share the code that allows you to actually reproduce that. And this way, we are doing this incremental progress. So in my example in particular, it's a very little example where somebody contributes an index, and then somebody else, in this case me, just perfect this index by increasing the constants. And then maybe you will not like this index, and you will propose another one, and you will go to this other box that allows you to create a new index and share it again.
It resembles to me like that we have the real-time online editing, that we have, for instance, in Google Doc, that you can develop a document together across, different authors. And you can actually do that with, in this case, Earth observations and results using Earth observations. Not only Earth observations, right? You mentioned there's other types of data that you can also
with in situ, why not? Yes.
Yeah.
But you cannot do it simultaneously. I mean,
no.
You can do it, of course. It is incremental. Everybody can contribute new feedback at the same time, but of course it will work in an evolution, because you will see what the others do and you will contribute and so on. And this is kind of a way of progressing and evolving, and someday somebody will collect everything and will extract the conclusions and maybe publish a paper with it.
Yeah, so it's reproducible, so to control that the result is the same and that kind of reproducible, and in addition to that, you can actually use it as a tool to collaborate to improve a product or an application or what have you. In this case, visualization, right? A map or map making. Yeah,
absolutely.
Which is very much what we are talking about implementing in GEOS in the Knowledge Hub. So this is really a demonstration. In my view, this is a demonstration of something that is actually already functioning. We heard that there are things that can be improved from Anestis. We saw that it has already been implemented in an operational manner on biodiversity portal, but with concrete plans of further improvements and further functionality, right? And then we saw I believe the most advanced use of is, Joan, at this stage, right? This collaboration around developing new applications or mapping in this case.
Yeah, and we never thought about that when we developed the initial standard. And this is something that we want to. Once we have this applied and we can show implementations, we will go back to the OGC, to the Open Geospatial Consortium, and we will present how we extended the model for the Geospatial user feedback system.
Yes, and that was a key word for me for a question I had to you, Alaitz, because using OGC standards. So how important would you say that the use of standards has been in developing this tool?
Well, always standards is a matter of decision, you go for them or you don't, and then everyone decides. But of course we go for them because the idea is that if everyone follows the standard, we have our application, but maybe someone else will prefer doing their own, and it's fine, of course. Because if at the end we are all of us working with the same standard, then we can share, and we can also see feedbacks coming from different catalogs. Now we know only about our catalog. Maybe there are others outside, but in the future, I hope there are more than one, but all of them can be queried and then can be retrieved the information in the same way because we have this standard. And then it's like the best way of creating this information and sharing among everyone.
Yeah, so it's well, you know, for me, it's close to my heart is interoperability, and standards is definitely an important tool in achieving that. I had also a question on, I believe it was for you, Jose, then, because you were demonstrating for us how it has been implemented on data sets, on data collections, and on pilot level. So 3 different levels on the catalog. Now, in the pilots, there are different types of products that also can be cataloged, that are being cataloged on the NextGEOSS Data Hub. So is there a way of giving feedback also, for instance, on a service level within a pilot, or can you talk to that? You know, what kind of level? Is there a potential new level, or how is this organized?
Well, basically we can implement this feedback widget anywhere we'd like. So it's up really to well, the upper levels. I mean, if anybody would like to have this, maybe if we receive feedback from users on our website that on the catalog that we'd like to have more feedback on different items, we can easily implement it. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you asked me or not, but.
Let's use the example from Stephan and the biodiversity. I know you have this this product, the remote sensing enable essential biodiversity variables. That's a product that comes out after an algorithm. You have a product.
No,
right?
that's not quite true. We use the EBV layers as predictors, so they are fixed. They have been prepared for us.
Yes.
They come from remote sense data, but we use these layers, these predictors, to produce suitability maps. So that's suitability map of certain habitat types, and these maps, of course, can also be used as input for other analysis, for other GIS experience.
So then, in your case, you could get feedback, which you probably are already in your portal, feedback on the maps that you create.
Well, not really, because
Okay.
no, the maps we produce is for yourself. Huh? I mean,
okay.
And then in future we can share the preferences we have. So, for example, I make a selection for a certain habitat type. I make a selection for a certain number of predictors. This will produce a map, and I can store my preference in the feedback system and the NiMMbus feedback system, and then other users can take those preferences and run the same model as I did. And then they can comment and they say, well, this is rubbish, or this is fine, or whatever. This is very useful, or it's not useful. So
right. So that's a type of a product that comes out of your. Yeah.
So the outcome is a zip file which has all the Maxent output, and one of the outputs is an ASCII grid file on European level. So that's the map I've shown you. But also it comes with the graphs and some statistical information, of course, which is also in the package.
And you can get user feedback on that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
for now, we can only have user feedback on how the system works. I mean, how the application works. There was also a little bit comment on the feedback system. Some people found the wording abstract a little bit confusing. So it says abstract, and then so it would maybe better to say title or something like that. I don't know. So I just got this comment today.
Yeah. Okay.
You can look it up.
So a question to you developers. Now you've heard, you got a lot of valuable feedback from somebody who has implemented it here today or even before. What would be a dream situation for you to get more, to move forward, to improve this this very powerful tool? What would be a wish that you could have to the communities?
What do you mean with the developers?
Yeah, the developers of the service itself. You are a user, Stephan.
Yeah.
Anestis is a user, and Joan is both.
Yeah.
And Jose is also a developer. So Alaitz, of course. Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, for me as a user of this widget and the integration of this widget in a portal, and what we have shown today to this webinar, from a simple use to a most advanced use that Joan has presented, is that there are no limits on expanding and extending the functionalities of such a service. And I pretty much like, and I was not aware about what Joan has shown. So the feedback from the users is really important for us to make some adjustment and also advance a bit on what has been developed. So a powerful tool it is there. So we need users to provide feedback about that. And from what I have seen today, there is no limit on that. So I trust that developers are here for integrating, adjusting, fine-tuning, extending, but we need, of course, the users to provide us feedback about that in order to be more successful at the end.
Excellent. That was a fantastic testimony to this work. I just want to remind that it's possible to ask questions in the chat box if you want to. I'm asking questions now while basically I'm waiting for more comments, but I'm pretty engaged in this myself. I think this is something that answer a need that has been discussed in the group on Earth observation for quite some time already. And I know that you know this, Joan and Alaitz, for sure, that you are aware of this. Are there anything else that you want to, now that you've heard this in this little group, is there anything else you would like to highlight or comment on? Any takeaways that you want to share with us?
Well, one of the things that I would like to add is that it is now important, now we have these systems in place, it's now important that people contribute, because this is a tool for the people. So if people don't find it interesting, don't know it, don't contribute, it will be a non-useful tool. So we need everybody to actually start using it. So don't be shy. Share your opinions, try it, and tell us, as my colleague said, what could be done better.
Exactly. I say thank you for that. We just discussed before we went on air here that the sustainability of this system, is this something that will be running beyond? Well, now NextGEOSS project is ending. You are talking about ECOPotential was ending, so the European projects are ending. But this tool that can be used by many different, not only community portals, but projects and so on. Do you have any information with respect to the continuity and sustainability, except for the things you said that you rely on the users using it?
Yeah, well, we have another project that is called Geospatial, about essential variables. We are in conversations with the providers of the so-called dashboard. That is kind of a map browser, but with different functionalities, more numbers, more cockpit clocks here and there. So now we want to share this developing with them. And this is going to be another user. And from that, we are open to integrate it in other places, and to also be part of other projects where we can continue evolve the thing with all the ideas that are in our mind and the ones that are going to come.
Yeah. So I'm thinking particularly because in order to be global the way it is, this tool is that you have a server, right? You have a central server. Is the NiMMbus, is that the name of the server?
Yeah, the NiMMbus is kind of an intellectual name for cloud. Yeah. I believe it's a Greek thing for cloud. that means that it's a cloud of computers that are providing the service. Yes.
Yes, and that is something that will remain, right? This will be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is an important information for people to have a motivation to use it. And the same goes for NextGEOSS, just to say that, because this is a NextGEOSS geospatial user feedback service that we are talking about. And NextGEOSS will actually maintain to be operational also beyond the project period. And I think this is important to mention, that this is something that will remain there. If you want people to invest time to give feedback, it should be there for beyond, irrelevant of the start and end of projects.
Yeah, absolutely.
I see we have 5 minutes over the hour. Yeah, look at Joan. You added a link to the map of ECOPotential. You have also, I've also included a link to the NextGEOSS, some more information about the NextGEOSS Geospatial User Feedback service, so that you can read more about it and get access to it via that link. We will talk more about the user feedback and other platform services on the NextGEOSS Summit that will take place on the 5th to the 9th of October, so very soon. It's the week after the FEE week. It's a big event also for the Earth observation community that will take place next week. NextGEOSS will also be there. You will learn more about several services and the data catalog, which of course the user feedback service is a part of. So you will have more opportunities to learn more about this features. Okay, anything else you want to add here, you guys? Thank you so much for super great presentations. You know me, I'm honestly, personally, very excited about this.
Thank you, Bente.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, have a
nice weekend.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Until soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.